My name's John Powell. I'm a film composer.
I'm Greg Wells. I am the music producer.
I'm Andy Nelson. I'm one of the re-recording mixers on Wicked.
I'm Myron Kerstein. I'm the editor of Wicked, and I'm here with Avid to peek behind the curtain for one of the scenes in Wicked, Defying Gravity. There's no musical like Wicked. It's probably the biggest thing I've ever worked on. John said he wanted to make Wizard of Oz meets Lord of the Rings, and we knew right away that the scale was going to be so much bigger. I read the script. Immediately I started crying, and by the end of it, I knew that Defying Gravity was going to be this epic finale to the end of our movie. So right away, I was very intimidated by the process. I knew that we had to deliver. You wanted to feel like this big Empire Strikes Back ending. You wanted to have this sort of culmination of everything you had just experienced over the 2 hours and 30 odd minutes before. How do we actually pull this off? How are we going to have Elphaba singing at all? How does that work? Is she going to be on wires? Is she going to be all CG? Can we actually do live? How does sound design affect it? You know, is there something in picture that I need to change to accommodate live vocals? I was trying to assemble the Avengers of post-production, and I needed the best to basically tell me how to put together these songs. You know, I have multiple tracks of live vocals, I have instrumentals, I have click tracks I have to keep track of. So that constant flow between sound and music and picture never stops. I was in London for 8 months. My edit room was at Sky Studios, and right below me was literally the throne room. The wizard's head was right beneath me. It was really important for me to be around production, but I also tried to keep an arm's length from production. And the reason being is just that. You don't want to be influenced by, what happened on the day. And I think just having a pure sort of objective opinion of what was shot each day, that separation from production is really important. And I watch it like I'm the first audience member. It's this real sacred moment that I cherish, where I get to just experience all the footage. Does something make me want to cry? Does something make me laugh? Do I get goosebumps from a shot? And all this is like really important, just first notions of what moves me as an audience member. And then I go back a second time, and then I start pulling selects, or I make markers based on those first initial reactions. And then I build very slowly, like the scene. I try to let it all be feeling and performance. Otherwise, it doesn't go in. It's really important for an editor to understand how they are connecting to the material. And if you're not connecting to it from the get-go, if you're just starting to technically grab things and get things on the timeline, I think you sure change the process of being an editor. So in this scene, Elphaba and Glinda just escaped the wizard and his henchmen, the guards, in a balloon chase. And now they're trying to figure out what they should do. And right away, Cynthia is basically saying, I'm not going to run away anymore. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to take some power. I'm going to take what I've felt all along, which is I have this ability. This is ascension. And she sees where she should go. She needs to go up. So right away, I'm building to this moment of her climbing the stairs. But then there has to be a ticking clock. So I'm constantly going back and forth between the guards coming after them.
Stop! Not that hideous levitation spell, Elphaba, please! You don't know what you're doing with that, please! Stop!
Elphaba thinks that she has the power to perhaps find a way to escape. Maybe she'll make wings for Glinda and herself, and that'll be a way for her to escape. And right away, we realize that whatever she thought she could do isn't going to happen the same way with the monkeys. And we're trying to create this moment of feeling, okay, maybe she doesn't have the power. And then we hear this noise. And we realize this broom that Elphaba had used to block off the doors is now being bewitched in some ways. Now keep in mind, we're still in the middle of the song. Just earlier, she's singing the first phrase, the first chorus of Defying Gravity.
Gravity, and you can't pull me down.
But if you could see my timeline, the song ends here. And now I have to unfold the drama. And John likes to constantly work with the audience's expectations. So once the broom comes to her and the guards start to descend, Elphaba tries to get Glinda to join her.
Come with me. Think of what we could do together.
Now keep in mind, this is all live.
Unlimited. Together we're unlimited.
And I'm picking all that performance the same way as I'm picking all my dialogue performance.
Come with me. Think of what we could do together. Unlimited. Together we're unlimited.
So I'm back in the song. The guards are descending on them. For a moment, we think that both Elphaba and Glinda are going to go away together.
Are you coming?
Just to go back a second, again, this is all live vocals.
Defying gravity with you and I. Defying gravity, they'll never bring us down.
Song ends. And now I have to continue the scene. And now there's this really great long pauses where Elphaba realizes she isn't coming. And just to hold on them, to hold on this performance, these beautiful looks that Cynthia gives. And then what is Glinda up to? She's like, well, I'm going to tie this thing around there because you seem cold. We're still in the song. And what I love, the most powerful thing of this entire section of the film is this moment where Defying Gravity, the Wicked Witch of the West origin story, all comes together as one. It's this really powerful moment. We're just holding on her. We're just waiting. We're just building anticipation. The origin story is complete. Now what's going to happen? They realize that they're not going to be together. And then the guards descend. So you think for a moment maybe they'll escape. So I'm cross-cutting between the guards coming up the attic and then Elphaba trying to keep them off of them. And then we have this big moment, which is in the stage production, is when she says, "It's me." And "It's me" is like this moment where the climax of the song happens. But we have one more trick up our sleeves. she doesn't have the power quite yet. There's one other thing that she needs to face, which is herself, her power, her weaknesses. She has to figure out, can she indeed heal? What I also love about this section is originally is Cynthia.
What have you done this time? Get away!
So we're leaving up a lot to our imagination from the beginning of cutting to finding our way with this moment. And then once she sees her younger self, then we have one more moment where we can climax to this song. And of course, the last moment, the climax and top of the climax, is this moment where Cynthia sings the war cry. And for one last time, we stop the song.
Nobody in all of us, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me
Song stops again. How do we build up anticipation to this big war cry? You know, we have to find the right rhythm. You know, again, the song stops right here. And I'm trying to make sure I could build another climax here. And yes, it is Cynthia singing here. So you can see there's a lot that goes into Defying Gravity. It's a lot working with anticipation. It's starting and stopping music. It's building up emotions with longing and this feeling of loss. And hopefully it makes for a really incredible cinematic experience. I've learned that you can dream big and still meet the mark. All the craftspeople that took to make this thing, and they're all dreaming big, and it was all under John's leadership. And he wanted to make sure that we could feel like we were returning back to like the old Hollywood golden age of cinema. We wanted to bring that back. So to dream that big and to meet that bar is something that I didn't know if I could still do, but to go for it and then to try to meet your own expectations of what dreaming big is what I learned you could still do.
My name is John Powell. I'm one of the two composers of the score of Wicked with Stephen Schwartz. And having a look through Reel 8, which is all the score and song parts of Defying Gravity. It was a very difficult job. I don't mind saying that. Wicked is, I think, number 69 or 70 of all the films I've done so far. But it was definitely one of the hardest. Normally, I don't start on a film until quite late, because the film has to find its feet sometimes, and it's best to do that without me. And then I will come in late, and I have a very particular kind of view of the film, which is I'm looking at it through this prism of, you know, what music could do to the subtext, what music can do to the scenes, what music can do to the excitement, the joy, the sadness of it. So the challenge in Defying Gravity is that it's it's this incredible song. It's very well known, and it's a whole reel. It's one of those amazing things where you walk into this kind of project and you already have this fabulous song going. As how do you thread the pieces together? You'll notice that there's lots of stems of just the score, and we split the stems out, so we have strings, which are recorded with the winds, and harps often. Then we do the brass often separately, orchestral percussion separately, other kinds of percussion, choir separate, and they're all on their own stems, and each one of those stems is 7.1.2. We carry Atmos tracks with us. We monitor them in here. This is an Atmos room, and then that goes to the dub stage so that Andy Nelson, who was mixing everything, would have those Atmos tracks. There's also all the song elements that Greg Wells would have supplied, hence the GW there. And now he had orchestral elements as well. So that was always mixed the same way, but all of his, you know, bass and pianos and drums and things were mixed into stems the same way. And there's even times when I may have used some of Greg's material, drums, bass, pianos and things, or even matched it so that we could get from one to the other. And in that case, actually, we even moved some of my elements into Greg's elements so that it could be, you know, processed the same way, and so that Andy could find all those bits in a common way. He wasn't always having to search around for things. As you can see, it's a highly complicated session. Everything is always in flux, in my opinion, until the end of the dub. I'm never off a job until the print master, as it's called, when everything is finally printed all together. I consider it my role to still be available and still figure things out and try and make sure that we can do as good a job musically as we can right until the door closes. So everything being in Pro Tools here, it allows us to move stuff around, re-edit, do anything until the absolutely last minute if it feels like there's a problem. So between Greg Wells and Stephen Erivo and me and the music editorial and Myron on the film editorial and John, there's a lot of scrutiny going on to all of these tracks, and that you can basically see here. So it would go between a score cue like this one. So you could see we had to know where we were going and make sure that we were, you know, landing in the right place for the beginning of the song there. And that was really just a build section under some dialogue. But coming out of this one, I think we then cross over into Morrible's announcement, this terrible moment when she's announcing across all of Oz that there's this evil creature. And
Right now.
so you see there, I knew that, and we played around with this, we knew that we were going to get the gravity theme on the end of this section, and I had to meet up with it in the right key. So that's where the cue starts. And I had to pick up that chord. And then I was just trying to get this feeling of, I don't know, kind of impending tragedy. So it kind of is, it's a mixture of two goes at this cue. Basically, I had one that was pulsing and one that wasn't. And in the end, the best result was to sort of crossfade between the two of them. So that moment when the choir comes in was very significant to John, and then we had to build to a certain point at which Morrible says the word wicked. And so there was a great significance to that moment, so I had to make sure that we landed in the right place. And then getting out of that, as long as I got in the right key for that, we were fine, because that's on Greg's tracks. So I didn't So I don't have to worry about this section, but I do have to worry about getting out of this section now into the next section. So for instance, in this section, Greg had this kind of groove stuff. I think, it's pretty much straight out of the underscore from the original musical. So I just took these elements, we looped them around a few times. This is a mixture of kind of Greg stuff and me trying to sort of recreate it, but we put it on Greg's tracks because then it made much more sense for Andy Nelson. And then I just added this kind of, I just added some orchestra over top of it just to sort of build the tension. You hear a theme from the song. There's all sorts of themes going on here. There's inversions of the themes. And then I've got terrible ADD, so I get real bored, and so I immediately change key. Kind of when I get bored, seem to just add a little bit more extra tension. Then we get out of that one, and then there's some silence for a while. It's the only bit of silence I think in Reel 8. And then I got into this section, which is based on some themes we did, original themes we did for the movie. There's about 3 themes that are new to the movie. And this is kind of you understanding that she has got these powers and what's she going to do with them? So all of this had to be kind of constructed and timed with image and get that in the right place as she grabbed the broom. So we knew we needed that section, and then I had to sort of score the action scene. Get back in the right key for the unlimited. So moments like those transitions, they're tricky because you do them once and the edit changes, and trying to get the right key relationship, trying to get the music to sort of shape in the scene in between. So here we are in the Cape scene, very difficult scene. Elphaba, we have to watch her very, very carefully for when she realizes that Glinda's not going to go with her. It's a very difficult moment for both characters, and so music is better staying out of the way as much as possible, but we then had to transition into something that would then indicate that she was going to take control and take power, and how to get to that. So, there's a lot of things that are or exist in the underscore in there, but also I had to sort of build in other things that we were using as well. So there's lots of the different riffs that exist and exist only in the movie, and we have to make sure we get out of that into.
I hope you're happy. Now that you're choosing this.
So you can see the transition point there, and that gets into some amazing vocals. Both Ari and Cynthia sang live. I was told, interestingly, that out of all the people, all the music editors and us and blah blah blah, and all of us being hotshots on Pro Tools, apparently the person who's best at it is Ariana Grande. She's a monster, apparently, on Pro Tools, on cut your own vocals, and possibly Cynthia, I believe. So it's interesting that I guess this is a sort of a world where everybody knows how to use Pro Tools. So then we get through the song, and so now we cross right into an action scene. So I had to get myself in the right key and then make this action stuff work. And then she leaps, and in the musical we know this piece of music, and it was John really wanted us to sort of fake out the audience a little bit. She leaps, but she doesn't go into the bit that you expect her to go into, and it was very important to John that that happened. And so you'll see here. This is all just, and then we're building up sort of the feeling of tragedy as much as possible. So then she crashes through the window, and normally we all know where that bit goes. It goes to the, this one of the most amazing pieces on Broadway that's ever happened. But we're teasing you here, and she falls. But I do transition into this choral section, which again is for the green, as she sees herself. This sort of the theme which was supposed to really represent the kind of the purity of her heart, and what she really desired as a character, so that's when the choir takes over this. That's where I transition back to Greg, who's done this whole section with Stephen and the two Stephens, and Jeff. And it's an amazing version, and that's when you get back into the song, as everybody knows. So you see basically before you, this is kind of all of Reel 8 in one go, all in one session, all the bits, and then the end of the movie, and hopefully people. Stand up, cheer, and that the cinema plays it loud enough that they can't be heard when they sing along. I mean, at least for me, they weren't singing along with the score during my bits. It was only Stephen's bits. But I hope you've enjoyed this quick view through Reel 8 of Wicked, and how everybody, apparently, including Ariana Grande, gets in there with Pro Tools and cuts the shit out of it, because that's our gig. You work hard on these things, and you try and always get them right. And I'm just very glad that this one really came together for people. When we started the movie, we didn't know how to do it, and I guess we do now, but now we've got to go and do part 2, and I'm not even sure I know how to do part 2 yet, but, we'll figure it out.
Hi, I'm Greg Wells. I'm the music producer for Wicked, and we are in my mix studio, and I want to rip apart this production of Defying Gravity, one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. It's truly the honor of my crazy career to get to work on this musical and this song so intimately. Let's get into it. I want to show you what's going on. I doubt it's ever been done better, technically, the capture of live vocals on a set. When I got hired, the only two cast members that had already been hired were Cynthia and Ariana. And it's no secret that they are both total powerhouse vocalists. And if there was ever anybody that could stand in front of a camera in any kind of situation on a set and pull it off with total authenticity and authority, it's them. Most of my career has been as a record producer, and I know that if you're trying to go for something that sounds great, you've always got to go to the source. The source itself has to be the best sounding thing you can get. Those two sources, it doesn't really get better than that. Every version of Wicked prior to this movie has been with a live pit orchestra, which is really, you're physically limited by the size of where they have enough room to put an orchestra, which is usually 14 to 19 people. But we realized that we were making a movie here, and we could make it sound like an old vaudeville ensemble if we wanted to, which we did for some of the Jeff Goldblum The Wizard stuff on Sentimental Man. We could make it sound like a full-on raging pop band if we wanted to. We could make it sound like a 90-piece orchestra, which it is a 90-piece orchestra. You can't jam that into a the physical space of a pit orchestra. So Defying Gravity, this song just speaks to me. And I remember just like screaming at the monitor watching, I just cried talking about screaming watching Cynthia. And I'm like crashing on guitars. Like I think I had 10 tracks of Marshall Les Pauls, and I'm like drumming and like, you know, everything. I was just so into what her performance in it just killed me. And then I just started polishing it, and then there's certain sections, like the really intense sections, especially when she's like, "It's me," and then it goes from there to the end. I spent weeks on those sections. To my knowledge, the changes to Defying Gravity came from John M. Chu, and he wanted to kind of expand and deepen the narrative, which you're able to do in a movie. I think it does make the ending far more impactful. So I've opened the most recently saved Pro Tools session of the final mix of Defying Gravity. This is what's on the soundtrack album, and this is basically exactly what's in the film. I really can't think of any other way to get this job done than in a piece of software like Pro Tools. It can kind of handle whatever you throw at it. There are so many tracks. I have not even counted how many tracks there are. We were recording like an 80 to 90 piece orchestra depending on the piece. And me, I'm the rhythm section. I'm playing most of the keyboards with Dominic Emendum and Stephen Arivo, and I'm playing all the guitars, I'm playing all the bass guitar, and I'm playing all the drums. Whatever I felt it was going to help kind of convey the oomph or the delicacy or the wallop in the face or whatever it was I wanted to have coming through the speakers. Sometimes less was more, sometimes more was more. For most of the guitar parts, because it was a recording and not a live pit orchestra in a theater, I decided to double all the guitar parts because I could, just to have it feel a bit more recordy, for lack of a better word. Sometimes I would triple them. In the case of this one, where she, after she sings, "It's me," and then basically tells the wizard to go take a hike, there's just like a wall of multiple guitars, distorted bass, maybe double, maybe triple tracked, this old Fender 6, which is a 6-string bass. Let's just go straight there. This is the section I'm talking about. So I have the guitar tracks in front of me. I just want to start listening to some of what happened there. That's the Fender 6. All floppy and totally out of tune. Listen to this next part. Insanity. What are all the guitars doing here? I'll just solo all of them. The other heavy bit that I love is when she's like, this bit here. Another really fun thing I love that I really chased and had a lot of fun with is this section. One of the best keyboard lines I've ever heard, and then really chasing that and trying to make it speak the way I wanted it to. Let's see if I can. Right. Lots of layering. Reminds me of Here Comes the Rain Again by Eurythmics. So those guys together sound like this. Blended with this keyboard part. Blended with the main piano. Such great writing. Such great writing. Stephen Schwartz is something else. As we get deeper into it, every time that chorus comes up, I think this chorus is sung 3 times, and it's the first time it sounds like that, where it's very light. The second time, it's like a halftime feel. And then the next time you hear it, it's that full-on craziness. And those guys are still there. So on Cynthia's vocal, I have 4 different effects that I bring in and out. There's quite a lot going on, especially in the big sections where she's really, really projecting, really belting out and having to cut through a huge melee of sound. Something I learned a long time ago when working with the great heavy rock producer Terry Date, who's constantly having to deal with singers cutting over a massive wall of sound. He taught me the importance of a very slight kind of harmonizer thing, which is not a new concept, but basically it just took the pitch down 6 cents on one side and up 6 cents on the other side, and just blend that in, and how that allows the vocal to just kind of float in front of a massive raging track. So I'm constantly using that whenever things get big, for either one of the lead actors in this movie. I never ever want to notice it. If we get to like this, it's me, I'm guessing everything's firing at that point.
It's me. So if you care to find me, look to the western sky. Has someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance to fly.
And, you know, the thing that I have always loved about Pro Tools is, in particular, this is where the Pro Tools software really, really shines, and for me just dominates. It's the ease of being creative in the technical space. It's just so easy for me to set up routing like this. It's so easy. This is a really complex mixing template that I've got. Percussion low, percussion high, toms, the rest of the drums, which would include overheads and room mics, and probably hi-hat mic as well. I have one for transition-y sounds. There's bass, there's piano, keys 1, synth 2, guitar 1, guitar 2, guitar 3, woodwinds, brass, strings, miscellaneous 1, who knows, miscellaneous 2, lead vocal 1, lead vocal effects. That's Cynthia, that's Ariana, Elphaba, and Glinda. And that's the ensemble, a few different ensemble tracks. Lots of stuff going on. And then I started doing this thing where I route all the instruments to a music VCA bus and all the vocals to a vocal bus. And that is really handy too, in case you just need a general macro rebalance in a certain section. All of that comes to this VCA. I call these like the submixes. And that gets sent to here for monitoring and for stereo bouncing. And then I guess it's not in this session, but typically I would then have stems that like audio tracks ready to go that would record the output of each one of these mix buses. I could do this for 10 hours and not get sick of it. But thank you very much for indulging me and getting into it. I feel like I just scratched the surface of the surface of the surface. I hope you get into it. I hope this helped inspire. It certainly inspires me. We're about to get into movie 2 right now, which also has amazing music in it, and I can't wait to sink our collective teeth into it.
I'm Andy Nelson. I'm one of the re-recording mixers on Wicked, and I handled all the music, the dialogue, and the vocal tracks, along with John Marquis, who handled all the sound effects and sound design work. My role essentially is to make sure that I can try and tell the story the best way I possibly can for the director. The storytelling aspect is crucial, and the emotional impact of scenes is crucial. And my job, I feel, is to try and make sure that we find those, we hang on to them, and hopefully elevate them all. Now, I had seen Wicked on stage, and I remember at the time turning to my wife and saying, after 10 minutes, saying, this is like a piece of cinema. It's going to be phenomenal when this makes its way to film. Never imagining I would ever be involved. When you take a musical from the stage and try and make one movie of it, inevitably the songs are coming at you fairly quickly. But you don't get a lot of time between sometimes. This film, by being in 2 parts, allowed us to go much more into the depths of those characters. But it also, from a dynamics point of view, from a mix, wasn't sort of one big number after another big number, which can be fatiguing. It allowed those spaces and the natural dynamics of the story to come through. Obviously, putting together a soundtrack like this or a movie like this is a huge team behind the scenes. Every player came with their A game to start with. I'd worked with John Powell, for instance. I knew when he was announced to be doing the score that it would be special, as indeed it is. When I went to London, when the orchestra was going to be recorded for the orchestral portion of the songs, because there were 2 sets of orchestras, one for John Powell's score and one for the songs, which Stephen Schwartz was obviously very, very involved with. I was so blown away by the sound of this probably just a little over 80-piece orchestra, playing very familiar tunes, but in a completely new way, because the cast album, of course, was using the original pit orchestras, and the size of the orchestra is quite small, of course, in a theatre. Now you've got this sumptuous, huge orchestras just resonating through the building. And I kind of threw all my paperwork away that all the notes I'd made in my head of each song. I just thought, oh, no, forget that. This is a different experience now. This is now incredible cinema sound. And Greg Wells really, he would come onto the dub stage early on and listen to a little piece of all the orchestra and the drums and the basses and then he would go back into his mix room and come up with a slightly different balance, knowing what I was going to have to deal with all the sound effects that were going to come in from John, the power of her vocals, of course, which always had to be right out there. You know, lots been talked about with the live singing, but it's a very important part of this film because you connect to Elphaba and Glinda so brilliantly by the fact that they are mainly singing to us live. If you're dealing just with a pre-recorded vocal, which can be sunk beautifully and perfectly, there's just something in the brain that there's just that very, very slight disconnect that still works, but it's like having a sheet of glass in front of you. You take the glass away and you put the live vocal in and suddenly you connect. That's why the end result is so dynamic with particularly Cynthia singing Gravity is just like, it's you get a tingle every time you hear that, because she was hanging a long way up on the stage, singing her heart out. It's pretty amazing. I mean, the whole film at this point is leading to Defying Gravity. You know the audience is waiting. They're there. And you know that the very first line, why do you fly off the handle? You know that people are going to react immediately. And indeed, they do. But I think it was really interesting how John and Myron paced that out, because you could have just gone straight into it and it would have been over fairly quickly. As brilliantly as it was even better to just sort of say, well, let's introduce a little, let's hold back a little, let's allow these spaces. And again, this comes back to the idea of having the time available by not trying to sort of say, well, we're at the end of a very long picture now that's had every piece of music in the original musical. How do we finish this thing up? This allowed it to have a much more sort of organic approach. And the pieces of quiet where she goes over to select the cape, I mean, it's so beautiful. Gravity itself, was all about dynamics. It's all about the end of the movie and how do we get this incredibly intimate moment when Elphaba has the tear and she's putting the cape on. I mean, it's so wonderful between the two of them. You can hear a pin drop at that moment. It's so beautiful. But you're about to launch into something giant. So again, building those dynamics was the fun part. And we were all on the same page. And nobody was saying, well, what if we do this? Or what if we all wanted this sort of same end result. So I think it was everybody pulling in the right direction at the right time. One thing I do as a mixer on a musical, I mix the dialogue and the vocals at the same time. I don't treat them as a song. I treat them as one piece of storytelling. Whether they're talking or singing, it doesn't matter. They're conveying lyrics and story to us. So I actually balance that with the music on, but kind of low, so that I can really concentrate on how they're sounding, what sort of space they're sitting in, if I'm creating a little bit of a larger space or a tinier room, so that they're all uniform together all the time. And then I introduce the music into that. When you're mixing, it's a subjective medium. There's no right or wrong in mixing sound. It's what do you feel? What do I feel? What do you think of that? Do you like that? I don't like working in a bubble. I love to work with a collaborative team. So for me, Nancy Nugent-Title, who was the dialogue supervisor, and John Stuver, who did a lot of the dialogue work with her, every line of dialogue in that film, I would collaborate with them on every single time. It wasn't like, oh, well, I think this is how it should be. We worked together, and that's the beauty of that system. Exactly the same with music, with Jack Dolman and Catherine Wilson doing all the editorial work for music. Same thing, when I would slide over into the music faders and we would start a music pass, I would work 100% collaboratively with them as well. Robin Bainton was hired as the vocal editor / vocal mixer, preparing all these tracks to send to me. Incredible. He would come down and listen to something and I would play something and we would both say, well, what about, do we have to, when he turns there, do we have to use the pre-record because what's the live like? Oh, well, let's listen to the live. Oh, I think we can use that moment of live. This was like the construction kit. It was incredible. If you looked at his Pro Tools, it was insane. So for me, it's about funneling all these incredible creative forces through, sort of under my fingertips, essentially, which is so much fun. It's not a power thing. It's about wanting to just serve them the best that I can, and that's for me, that's the joy of working as a re-recording mixer. When I'm working with somebody on Pro Tools, which is all the time, obviously, whether it's dialogue or music, getting that material to me through the editorial process is incredibly important, because they're taking all their individual tracks, phase aligning things, going in and digging out a little bit of noise reduction here and there, sometimes a lot, depending, and then feeding me what they think is the presentation. The beauty of Pro Tools is nothing is committed. So I can just turn to the Pro Tools editor and say, let's have another look at that piece again. We worked on this for close on 3 months of mixing by the time we did all the different versions, IMAX and near field and all the different mix versions we have to do, and all the preparation, the pre-dubbing. And about 3 months total, which is a good amount of time, and we used it all. Working with John Chu was amazing. Loved him immediately. I love his passion. I love his sense of story. He's very collaborative, which I really, really appreciate. He himself actually was quite emotional at times, as were we all at different moments in the film, because as things came together, it just sort of all blossomed. There was a sense of everybody pulling together on the same team with this film in a kind of wonderful way that doesn't always happen. Everybody, you could tell everyone's eye was on the prize of making this something special. I remember when I was in the cinema, or even when I was 14 or 15, and the lights would go down, and if there was a piece of music with a beautiful visual, I was completely transported in that moment. And that's what drew me to sound, not any technical aspect of sound or geeking out with tape recorders and things. I mean, it was more about what the connection to the heart. I walked on set and I was like a child, because this thing was so big and so gorgeous and so movie-like. There was no sort of special effects, green screen. This was it. This was inside this incredibly large shooting stage. All the main actors were there. And I stood and watched for a day and just was in candy in movie land. You know, it was the best thing ever.